The House will come to order. Conference Committee reports on House files.
Conference Committee report on House File number 50, an act relating to transportation. The report is addressed to the Honorable Melissa Hortman, Speaker of the House, and the Honorable Jeremy R. Miller, President of the Senate. We, the undersigned conferees for House File number 50, report that we have agreed upon the items in dispute and recommend as follows. The report is signed by all three conferees on the part of the House and all three conferees on the part of the Senate. Hornstein moves that the report of the Conference Committee on House File number 50 be adopted and that the bill be repassed as amended by the Conference Committee.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Hornstein, to the Conference Committee report.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And House File 50 is the hands-free cell phone bill. We had an excellent Conference Committee. I wanted to thank Representative Neuer, Representative Petersburg, also Representative Torkelson played a role as well. And we had very productive conversations with the Senate, and we came up with a product that I think takes the best of the Senate language and the best of the House language. We were able to address concerns about GPS. The Senate took our language on that, more or less, and as well as the one-touch modality. The provisions in House File 50 and that House version were accepted by the Senate. Unfortunately, the traffic study was dropped, traffic stop study was dropped, but that is in the transportation bill, and I also believe in the public safety bill. So there might be another opportunity to get the House language on that in a different bill. So with that, members, I would be happy to take questions and appreciate your support.
Discussion on the motion to adopt the Conference Committee report. Representative Miller.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Representative Hornstein, thanks for going to Conference Committee on this and working through the details. This is a better bill than when it left here. But I do have a couple questions, mostly for clarification, if he will yield to a couple questions.
He will yield. Representative Miller.
Now, Representative Hornstein, I am a visual learner, so I'm going to kind of demonstrate. I hope the Speaker will bend the rules a little bit. It isn't really a prop. It's just a way to understand. The way that I read the bill in, sorry, I ran up here, in Section 1B are kind of the exceptions to what a wireless device is. So that's in 1.22, starting there, okay? The way that I read this, those are the things that don't apply to what it would eventually be a violation in this. Now, the question that I have as definition, I have two quick questions for you, and then I have a couple quick follow-up questions. I'll give both of these to begin with. So, Madam Speaker and Representative Hornstein, can I have this phone, because it talks about it has to be permanently affixed, integrated into the vehicle, can I have this mounted with one of those suction cup devices? Can it be on? And then also, and my follow-up question will make more sense with this, my wife was very kind to me and gave me a nice Apple Watch this Christmas, and it's a standalone. Can this be on my arm while I'm driving?
Representative Hornstein.
To your first question, yes, you can affix a phone to the dashboard, etc. But I would not. You can wear your watch. But I wouldn't recommend taking a look at that while you're driving. That would, and again, members, this is an important couple of questions because we want to emphasize that hands-free is not distraction-free. There are still distractions, and you know what I think law enforcement and the safety community and the many businesses that are supporting this bill would recommend is to limit to the most degree possible any distractions you have in the vehicle. So that would answer your question.
Representative Miller.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Will Representative Hornstein yield to another question?
He will. Representative Miller.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Representative Hornstein, so just to clarify, my watch does not need to be turned off while I'm driving. My phone that's sitting in a harness does not need to be turned off while I'm driving. Is that correct or incorrect?
Representative Hornstein.
My understanding, again, is you know, the one thing you have to understand on this bill is that hands-free means no hands on a cell phone. And so that would, again, I would not recommend you have that watch available to you when you're driving. I think that is a major distraction. But the most important thing, members, here is not what you can get away with. It's making sure that you are limiting your distractions to the greatest degree possible. So when we say hands-free, we mean hands-free.
Representative Miller.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, my concern is Representative Hornstein, and this has been the challenge with these bills, is it isn't what you can get away with. I agree with you. Fundamentally, we shouldn't be distracted. We should be on the road, but there are violations that are involved, members, and so when law enforcement pulls someone over, these are going to be the distinctions that are either decided at that point when they're pulled over or when they go into traffic court or something like this. And so these details are important. And while I fully agree, the concern that I have, and Representative Hornstein, I respect you a ton, but I'm not asking you to get this into the bitter details necessarily, but I don't know if we still know yet. I'm envisioning getting pulled over, and this may be sitting in its dock, or I may have my watch, and the way that I read this, the law enforcement could say, you were distracted in some way. And I just want to make sure, maybe the bill doesn't read that way. The way that I read that, that's left open for some possible confusion at that place. So if you could just give us some assurance of that. I'm actually trying to get this to where I can vote for the bill, so I just need clarification on this. Thank you.
Representative Hornstein.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Miller, in State Law 169.14 is a broader distracted driving provision. And so if you are driving in such a way that is dangerous or that causes law enforcement concern, and then you're pulled over, there are a variety of different statutes that you could be cited for. So in terms of those specific examples that you give, I think you would only be stopped if you were exhibiting some behavior that would cause suspicion. Maybe you're going from lane to lane, maybe you're speeding, slowing down. I mean, a variety of different activities would maybe be cause for your being pulled over.
Representative Miller.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Further discussion to adoption of the conference committee report. The member from Carver, Representative Nash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If the author would yield.
He will yield. Representative Nash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Representative Hornstein, I've shared some of my concerns with you from the day that you dropped the bill back in January. And the principal concern that I have is this. I put my headset on every day when I get into my vehicle, and I wear it very faithfully, and I always ask my phone to perhaps call you or my wife or one of my kids, or to send a text to somebody that I need to send a text to. And I do it all through voice command through my Bluetooth. And I realized after investigating this that there's really no way to annotate that in my phone. And you and I have talked about this, and I haven't really gotten an answer back from the manufacturers of the phones because I've asked their lobbyists to provide me information. So my concern is this, and I've talked to law enforcement officials both in my county and other counties and municipalities. If I were to send a text message to you utilizing voice commands through my headset and then get pulled over, I think you just said because I might be driving erratically or speeding or whatever, you said that that's a reason that I might get pulled over. According to my law enforcement friends, they said that if they were to look at my phone and they saw that I had sent you a text message 12 seconds before I got pulled over or a minute before I got pulled over, that there's no way to flag that it was done via Bluetooth. And I still have a concern about that because if I'm acting in good faith, as I do, and I'm trying to use voice control like I do, and I send the text to you, my law enforcement officials say, I'm going to get a ticket. And I haven't heard that being addressed in the bill. And I don't know what came back from that mysterious place we call the Senate. But if you could help me understand that, because I'm trying to find out for the people who are like myself that wear the headset every day, that are doing the right thing, and they may be sending a voice activating a call, or they might be sending a text via Bluetooth, which is legal. I'm just trying to find out, how do we make sure that if they get pulled over, that they're not going to get ticketed and potentially jam up the courts in fighting it by saying, look, I was using my Bluetooth, because there's no way to prove that that happened. So if the author would maybe help me understand that a little bit better, I'd appreciate that.
Representative Hornstein.
Thank you for the question, Madam Speaker. Representative Nash, again, I want to emphasize, if you were in a hands-free mode, then what you're doing would be acceptable under this law.
Representative Nash.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. But Representative Hornstein, I think you understand the scenario, because we've gone through it a number of times. If I have my headset on, and I'm not going to say it because my phone will actually do it, but if I were to say, hey, insert name of the voice companion here, send text message to Frank Hornstein using my Bluetooth headset, and then get pulled over, there's no way for me to disprove that I was using voice activated through my headset. That's my concern. My concern is that we're going to create a gotcha moment for people who are acting in good faith, who are trying to comply with the law, who understand the need for people to not be a distracted driver. Because we've all heard the stories, and they're compelling, and I want to make sure that we're doing the right thing, but I want to also make sure that we're doing the right thing by the people who are trying to be a conscientious driver like myself. And I'm just trying to find from you some help in being able to describe to my constituents or people who would have the same concern, because they have. And I've spoken to the lobbyists who represent Apple and who represent the various Android manufacturers, and they're telling me, Jim, there's no way for us to annotate in the text message using a symbol of like Bluetooth. There's no way to prove that that text was sent using hands-free. That's my concern, Mr. Chair. If you would be able to allay my concern, I would greatly appreciate it.
Representative Hornstein.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and Representative Nash. My understanding is that phone forensics have come to a place that you might be able to make the case in your defense that way. But again, you are exhibiting some behavior on the road in this scenario that's causing the law enforcement person to stop you. So again, it's not recommended that you drive in any way that would raise suspicion of being very distracted and putting yourself and others in danger. But I do believe that the phone forensics would, be able to absolve you of that.
Representative Nash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, Representative Hornstein, I have done the research, and I've talked to people who are manufacturers of the phones, and there is apparently a piece of software that is trying to be developed, but it's not ready yet. So the software is nowhere near to be ready to be in the field. So I have concerns, and I want to make sure that we're reducing distracted driving. I do. But I also know that there are thousands of people who want to comply with this law and yet still be able to utilize their Bluetooth either through their car, their headset, or whatever, and be compliant with the law that you're about to propose. But I haven't heard a good answer. And having you just say, well, it's close to being done, or I think the forensics is there. We're about to vote to create something that's going to go to the governor and will be signed into law without having gone the extra mile to create an understanding or a provision that would require something to be done technologically. So, Representative Hornstein, I want to vote for this. I do. And I'm still on the bubble as to what I'm going to do, but the question that I have asked still has yet to have an answer that is definitive. And you and I are friends, and you know that I want this to become something that is going to be good for Minnesota, and I want it to protect people who are on the road. But from my perspective, having something that's sort of maybe kind of ready to be utilized from a forensics perspective is not necessarily something that I think is what Minnesotans want. So if you could, again, I mean, you probably have spoken to maybe more people than I have as the author. Help me understand this.
Representative Hornstein.
Madam Speaker and Representative Nash, again, let's keep in mind that in the scenario you're describing, the burden of proof is on the state. You are not required to turn over your phone in this situation or hand over your Bluetooth device. And so I don't think that, you know, you're not required to hand over this or you know, the forensics would be, you know, part of any kind of proceeding. But again, the burden of proof is not on you in this situation.
Representative Nash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, Representative Hornstein, I'm going to disagree with you here. And we can maybe hammer it out later. But I did speak to law enforcement, and I did run a scenario past them. I said, so if you were to see me driving erratically and you made you pulled me over and you felt you had probable cause, could you actually get to my phone? And they said, yeah, we could. And if they look and they see that there's a text message that was just sent, there's no way for me to prove that it was sent legitimately. So that's my concern, Representative Hornstein. I hope you can answer it. Apparently, Representative Edelson's trying to whisper some answers in your ear, but I'm still unconvinced. I want to be convinced. Thank you.
Representative Munson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Representative Nash, for helping hammer home the point that I brought up in the original debate and that got me so frustrated, because this bill really goes further to legalize voice texting, which all of the studies out there show voice-to-text technology is so much more distracting than holding a phone to make a phone call. Yet, this bill goes further to allow people to send text messages by voice, to receive social media updates, and to send and receive emails, to actually compose emails while driving down the road. And the level of cognitive distraction that this causes is much more severe than just holding a phone while talking. But I really appreciated the debate here on how we can enforce this law, because I have constituents in my district, as many of you do, who have lost family members due to distracted driving, where someone hits them, causes injury or death, and they want to seek justice. They want those people to be prosecuted more severely for distracted driving. Yet it's my understanding this bill only has a $200 fine, and if you cause an accident because you were texting, and I just heard Representative Hornstein say, you're not required to hand over your phone. So in other words, the police aren't even able to enforce this law, and it sounds like there's some confusion, because I was talking to police officers too, because I had grave concerns over handing over my phone over the accusation of distracted driving, when this is more than just my records of who I call and who I text. This has all my photos on it, it has my medical records, it has a lot of data on here that I don't want to be turned over to anybody for privacy concerns, for Fourth Amendment protections. So I'm glad to know that you are not required to hand over your phone, but it really makes this bill unenforceable. You know, I heard Representative Hornstein say that the burden of proof is on the state. Well, that means, that's fine. That means, according to Nash's argument, because the cell phone carriers can't prove whether something was sent text by using your thumbs or sent by voice, or whether the phone call was initiated with Bluetooth or not, the state will never be able to prosecute this, because they will never be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you didn't send it hands-free. So now we're creating a law that's never going to be prosecuted. It's never going to give justice to people that are here to witness us passing something that they want. They want us to crack down on distracted driving. And during Representative Miller's questioning, it does say in the bill that it has to be permanently affixed. And putting it in a suction cup mount is not permanent. Representative Miller has his phone here today. It is not permanently affixed to his car. So that having a phone in front of you doesn't appear to be legal under this law. even though Representative Hornstein may be subpoenaed to every court case in Minnesota from now until eternity to testify that this wasn't his intent, it does say permanently, and you're allowing something to be temporarily affixed. And when I do voice to text, and I tell my phone to send a text message to Representative Hornstein that I'm going to be voting no on his bill, my phone actually prints the text right in front of me. And I've seen so many people that use this technology in the car look at their phone while they're doing it, okay? Hands-free is a misnomer. We want eyes on the road. We want eyes on the road. That's what we should be focused on, not hands, okay? Whether you're using your hand for your phone, or you're eating a taco, or you're holding on to a 64-ounce soda between your legs, or you have Fluffy on your lap, we have distracted drivers out there. And our existing law under 169.14 bans distracted driving. And one of the concerns I have on this bill, and Representative Hornstein, if you'll yield to a question.
He will yield.
Okay.
Representative Munson.
You had said that during the debate with Representative Nash, he was concerned about what happens when the police pull him over, and maybe, as Representative Miller said, he has a smartwatch on his wrist. And you said that law enforcement has to pull you over first. So is having a cell phone in my hand up against my head and a police officer sees that, is that a primary offense where a police officer can pull me over? Or do they have to wait for me to be distracted driving, swerving on the road or doing something erratic before they pull me over?
Representative Hornstein.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and Representative Munson. So, yes, so keep in mind, we are building on the existing texting while driving law here, which is a primary offense. So if you are using your cell phone and it's not in a hands-free mode, then yes, that would be cause for law enforcement action on this. But again, if you are driving erratically or in a distracted way, as Representative Nash was giving in his case study, under 169.14, you would be subject to action.
Representative Munson.
Okay, so that I guess changes the argument that Representative Nash had brought up for concerns, and especially when it comes to smart watches, because smart watches are now illegal to have on your wrist while driving. And there's a lot of people in this room that have smart watches and wear them. If I remembered to charge mine, I'd probably have one on today too. So we're lawmakers. We're writing laws that everyone in this state must follow. But I would be willing to guess that lawmakers, if this bill is passed, are going to get in the car and not take off their smartwatch every single time they get in the car. And so we need to be clear on the laws that we write so that they can be properly enforced by the court of law. First of all, we have a law that we can't enforce because we don't even have the data to show that they were distracted driving, because we've created so many exemptions to distracted driving to allow for composing emails and all this other stuff. We can't even enforce this law to start with. So now we have a useless law. But then we have the ability now, we're empowering the police department to pull over anyone on the road. Anyone on the road can be pulled over because they have a smartwatch. Whether it's on or off, it's on their person. It is not permanently affixed to the vehicle. Representative Miller has a smartwatch. His phone doesn't even have to be in the same state. His smartwatch is a cell phone. And it is not and will never be permanently affixed to the vehicle. So you're writing a law that we're going to vote on today that makes it illegal to own a smartwatch and have it on you. I offered an amendment that would clarify this. I also offered an amendment that would have banned texting while driving, period, whether by voice or not, because that's what's distracting, and that's a growing trend that's killing people in the states that have passed laws similar to this. And I mentioned on the House floor earlier that California, because they've had so many deaths due to voice to texting, people sending emails and doing social media updates and having Twitter read to them while they're driving, that they actually tried to ban this dangerous behavior, more distracting than what you're doing today. And the automotive industry came out in force to lobby against it, to kill that bill, because they love selling those $3,000 upgrades to vehicles so they can integrate all the social media stuff. You're making it illegal to have a small device in front of you, yet there's an iPad built into the dashboard of vehicles that's more distracting. And this bill does nothing to do that. So I don't know how to tell my constituents that want something to ban distracted driving that we actually passed a law that, first of all, can't be enforced. Even if it could be enforced and we could somehow find evidence to show it was not sent by voice, it's a $200 fine for running over grandma. And we're empowering police to pull anyone over and give them a ticket. Even if it can't be proven in court, someone has to take a day off of work and show up to court, and hopefully everyone in the jury understands that you can't prove beyond a reasonable doubt they didn't send it by voice just to get off. We are burdening our courts with a law we cannot enforce. I would urge members to vote no on this so that we can actually figure out a distracted driving bill that makes sense. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Hornstein.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I just want to respond to a couple of the statements you made, Representative Munson. In terms of the smartwatch, we have defined several times in this bill, 2.8, 2.9, that we don't want people to be watching, streaming videos, gaming. You know, law enforcement is saying that people are engaged in gaming while they're driving. And so that is very clearly prohibited in this bill. The definition of wireless communications device, that's not new language. That's from the existing texting law. You can see that in 1.18 and 1.21. And I want to correct you on your fine. In 3.7, you had mentioned it's $200. It's actually clearly stated here it's $275. So I think there was just a lot of inaccuracies and factual errors in your statement. And I think this law is very clear in terms of what's acceptable and what's unacceptable. And I want to remind the body, and I want to remind the people of Minnesota, that this is not what you can think you can get away with. We don't want anyone driving in a distracted way. You had mentioned California. California, since this law was passed, has a 22.1% fatality decrease. So we know this law works, members. In other states, it works. 22.1% decrease in fatalities after the hands-free law. So this will save lives. It is clear. And members, I would urge a yes vote.
The member from Freeborn, Representative Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. And I would just like to stand in support of this bill. And I want to thank Representative Hornstein for carrying this bill. I would like to also thank Representative Uglum last session for carrying this bill. It's been a process. And there is no perfect bill, as Representative Hornstein said. This is not a perfect bill, but I do believe it sends a clear message. It sends a message that says you should not have your phone in your hand and your eyes on your phone, and that's what we're trying to get at here. And there's many, many types of distracted driving. We're never, ever going to cure all of that because we're all human and we think we're superhuman and we think we can do it and drive at the same time. But it will send a message. It has been proven to be effective in other states. I am not one to add more regulation onto people. I hate that, actually. But sometimes it's just the right thing to do. And in this case, I do believe it's the right thing to do. So thank you, members. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The member from Anoka, Representative Stevenson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and it's a real pleasure to stand in support of this bill. This was actually the very first bill that I signed on to as a member of this House, and I just wanted to speak about a couple of the issues that have been raised by other members and maybe clear up a few misconceptions. I think what Chair Hornstein said a few moments ago is just very important that everybody keep in mind, that ultimately in our criminal justice system, the person who's accused of wrongdoing doesn't have to prove anything. The burden of proof rests upon the state. And as someone who is a prosecutor, that's very important. And it rests upon the state as to each and every element of the offense. And so it would not be sufficient just to show that a text was sent and that the person was driving. You would have to prove as a prosecutor that you were not following this law, that the phone was in your hand, that you were not abiding by the exceptions in this statute. And that burden would be on the state to prove, not on the individual to prove. There's also been some questions about whether or not police could get the phone. And again, Chair Hornstein's correct. You have no obligation just to hand over your property to the state when you're asked for it. But that doesn't mean it's not enforceable, because people refuse to turn over property to the state. That's evidence of a crime in all sorts of criminal investigations. And we have a method for dealing with that. It's called a search warrant. And we get those all the time. And if there is probable cause to support, that's something that could happen here. So it would be, you would be able to prosecute this. I feel very confident of that. Not to mention, there's a lot of great evidence that someone is using a phone inappropriately that doesn't rely upon the phone itself, of having the phone in your possession. For example, the police officer might just see that the phone is up at the person's ear, while they're driving. That'd be pretty good evidence that was happening. They might see that, I'm sure that you've all seen this. I've seen it when I'm out driving. The phone's up at 12 o'clock position on the steering wheel as you're driving around. The person's texting and driving. That'd be really good evidence. You wouldn't need to have a warrant to figure that out. You would just have the testimony of the officer. I saw with my eyes that person had the phone up by their ear. So that's pretty good too. The last thing I want to clarify is just this idea that somehow this bill is going to make smartwatches or other devices illegal because they're not permanently affixed. And I think that's just a misreading of this statute. The permanently affixed stuff is in the definitions section of what constitutes a wireless device. And so if it's not permanently affixed, it's a wireless device under the definitions here. But then under subsection 3 here, it's on page 3, starting in line 3.8, there's exceptions that saying that you can have these devices if you're not using them up by your ear, if they're in hands-free mode, or so on and so forth. So you have to read the bill in its totality to understand how it operates. This is a great bill. It's not a complete solution, as Chair Hornstein said on the very first time we debated this bill on the floor. It's not going to solve all of the problems we have with distracted driving, but it will make a difference. And that's why I'm so pleased to support, and I'm so pleased that former Representative Uglem is here with us today to see this happen. I'm just so happy that Representative Uglem carried this bill for so many years. I'm pleased to support it now. Representative Uglem and I don't agree on everything. He's a Republican, I'm a Democrat, but that doesn't matter. Distracted driving kills. And so I'd ask all members to have a green vote today.
Since his name has been mentioned a couple of times, I'd like to recognize that Representative Mark Uglem from Champlin, who served in this body from 2013 to 2018, is with us on the House floor today. The member from Dakota, Representative Hewitt.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, once again, I rise to support this bill. Over the weekend, I got a call from a colleague covering a helicopter base. And yes, he transported an individual high school student to an ICU here in the cities that was distracted driving and texting. This is a common call. This is a common situation right now. And Representative Nash and Representative Munson, I get it. We want to do it right. We do want to do it right. And I'm going to bring you back in history to a time when we debated over a seatbelt law in this same body. And the same debate happened. How are they going to enforce it? How are they going to know that I had my seatbelt on or off? They do. They did. And the troopers and the police officers did it right, because now we're at about a 90% compliance with seatbelt laws. How do we know that? Again, I bring back the fines that are levied against somebody driving without a seatbelt. They don't exist. They're gone. Very few pay fines on this anymore. So I ask you for the students, I ask you for my industry, the emergency medical services industry, let's do this. Let's do it today. Let's get it off the floor. Let's do this for our kids. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The member from Waseca Steele, Representative Petersburg.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was going to also point out the fact that some of the confusion of the beginning testimony, or at least discussion, revolved around just the definitions of what is a wireless device and what is an integrated device, and not intended to denote whether or not you can do it in hands-free or not. And later on, we do talk about the exceptions, which includes wireless communication devices and et cetera. We also were talking about, heard at least discussion about how smartwatch or Fitbit might not qualify. Well, all my kindergarten kids that I'm aware of and my grandkids knew the difference between a wrist and a hand. And something on your wrist is not in your hand, period. I mean, that's just the way it is. It doesn't make, that's pretty clear to me. In regards to the concerns in regard to whether or not you voice-activated a text or you did it with your hand, the police officer would need to see it in your hand in order for it to be a text that way. And I think that's fairly clear in the fact that even today, when we have a very stringent anti-texting law, if a police officer stops them and they say, no, we're just putting in a GPS, the police officer has to accept that because they can't verify one way or the other. So I think this is very good bill. I think it's one that we need to pass. It's one that really will help keep our roads safer. I know that when I'm driving, I want to have the person coming towards me not distracted by something that he's holding in his hand and looking at. You know, there is a little bit of a difference between eating an apple or a taco or something in which you actually can do that without looking at it. And so you're keeping your eyes on the road. So maybe that's another part that we have to deal with. But currently we're dealing with hands-free in regards to electronic devices. I will also share with you, some of you may not know this, but the first 100 years that automobiles were in existence, we didn't have cell phones. And we were able to survive and we were able to drive and stay focused without those cell phones. And you know what? I think we can still do that. I think we can still figure out how we can set down our electronic devices and how we can use the activated, voice-activated programs to keep us safer. And I think that technology is there and it's something that we can use. And it's just now a matter of discipline, something that we can do. So this bill needs to be passed. I think it's a great bill. And I thank Chair Hornstein for bringing this forward. Thank you.
Representative Detmer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Chair Hornstein, you know I support your bill. And you also gave me a hearing on my bill, House File 104. In fact, the members might want to check out Senate File 75, which passed off the Senate yesterday. And it's a companion bill of House File 104. And I'm waiting to get a hearing in public safety with Marani as the chair. I know my bill pretty much covers more of the penalties of distracted driving, whereas the first penalty would be $150, the second $300, and the third $500. There's also a clause in my bill that would require the commissioner to have an education component that any new driver's education programs would have to also cover distracted driving and the penalties associated with that distracted driving, and also any new laws that we might have. And also, my bill would also include criminal vehicle homicide, that there's problems with the people who are killed during a distracted driving incident or have great bodily harm. So I would hope that maybe as we go forward with this, that you might hear House File 104 coming before the body also, and that we can take a look at some of the issues there and maybe make things even better in this situation. Thank you, Chair Hornstein.
The member from Brown, Representative Torkelson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and members. Just rise to express my appreciation first for former Representative Uglem for his work on this bill and this issue in the past. My appreciation to Representative Petersburg for his work on the conference committee. The bill comes back to us minus some things that we objected to, and I'm happy to see those gone. And finally, to Chair Hornstein for his work on this bill and his work on the conference committee with the Senate to make this a good bill. It's not perfect, but neither is the way we drive. We've been exposed to some great technology over the last decade or two that we find very useful. We find it very handy, but we also find it addicting, frankly. And we don't have to do these things while we're driving, but we do have to drive safely. And if we allow this technology to distract us and we cause harm to someone else, we're doing the wrong thing, folks. We don't have to text and drive. We don't have to do anything but drive when we drive. We choose to do other things while we're driving, but that's a choice that we each make. And some of us make that choice poorly, and we do things in our cars that we should not be doing. And this bill sends a message from us here at the Minnesota Legislature that we believe that when you do something in your car that's inappropriate and puts other people at risk, it's wrong. And we're going to give law enforcement a tool that they can use to make our roads safer. I think this is a step in the right direction. We may need to revisit this issue in the future because we all know technology continues to change. What we have available today is going to be different in the future, but at the same time, we are all required to watch out for the other people on the road, and that means that we pay attention to what we're doing when we're behind the wheel. Thank you, members. I urge you to vote green.
Is there any further discussion on the adoption of the Conference Committee report for House File number 50? Representative Lucero.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And if the bill author would yield for several questions.
He will yield. Representative Lucero.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So Representative Petersburg used an example that kindergartners could understand the difference between smartphones and smartwatch. So I quickly Googled it up here. Smartphone wrist mount. So if I have my smartphone on my wrist, performing the same functions as a smartwatch, would that be illegal under the language of this bill? And or I still don't have clarity on just a smartwatch. Is a smartwatch permitted or not?
Representative Hornstein.
Again, Madam Speaker and members, the definition of a wireless communications device is 1.8 to 1.21. And if you look at 2.8 to 2.10, you can see the different items that are prohibited under this bill.
Representative Lucero.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and if the bill author would continue to yield. When I'm reading that language, my understanding is that a smartwatch is prohibited under this language. Is my understanding correct or not?
Representative Hornstein.
A wireless communications device means a cellular phone, a portable electronic device that is capable of receiving and transmitting data, including but not limited to text messages and email, without an access line for service.
Representative Lucero.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And that is exactly what a smartwatch does. It sends and receives wireless communication devices. It's capable of doing that. Wireless communication messages, I should say. So that would be prohibited. I also looked up here, the technology, one of the things that I've been saying since I've been in the legislature here is that the law is not keeping up with technology. And one of the many concerns I have with this language is that there are things that are going to be roped in that I think perhaps should be excluded from this. Smartwatches would be one of them. Another would be Google Glasses. I have right here, I pulled it up, I went to YouTube just to give me an example of what Google Glasses looks like from the perspective of the person wearing them. And there are images right in front of the face with all kinds of information. You can browse the web, you can compose messages, you can see it, you can pull up the date, time, all this stuff. So I'm concerned that there's just not enough foresight in what's coming down the road and what's presently available now. When this bill was on the floor here a week or two back, I saw the language that it was written something to the effect of it expressly prohibited holding the phone, or holding the phone was in the definition of using the phone, even though it wasn't being used to actively send and receive messages or type. It just simply holding the phone, whether on or off. I don't see that language in this language before us, but what I do see is that in regards to the global positioning system, that the person does not hold the device with one or both hands. So can you help me understand, since I don't see the original language regarding holding the device, if the device is powered off, a smartphone, the smartphone is powered off, I'm not using it, but I'm just simply holding it with one hand. Is that prohibited under the language of this bill?
Did you ask the author to yield?
If the author would yield.
Yes, he will. Representative Hornstein.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Lucero. Hands-free is hands-free.
Representative Lucero.
Okay, so I take that to be yes. So whether the device is on or off, whether you're using it or not, you're prohibited from using it, or I'm sorry, holding it while operating a vehicle. And I can imagine the scenario. In fact, over the Easter break here, members, I'm going to go on a road trip. Going to go on a road trip, and as I always do, we have a center, we have captain's chairs in the front, and we have a nice big gap in the van that we normally drive between the two seats. And what do we put in this gap? Lots and lots of junk food. And in addition to the junk food, the mobile phones are there. So I can imagine if I'm moving this stuff around, trying to grab the water or the Red Bull or maybe the bugles or the corn nuts, I have to grab my phone powered off to move it. In that act, I am breaking the law. That to me is an absurdity. I understand the intent, but here again, it's an example where there are some scenarios that could be included in this that we're going to bring people in as violators of the law that shouldn't be. Members, I'll just point out one thing from yesterday. Yesterday we had the discussion on light rail transit operators. And I want to highlight that there was an amendment authored by Representative Runbeck to include several additional provisions that should be prohibited by a light rail transit operator. And among those was the very statute we're discussing here, 169.475. If this gets passed into law, I think members should be aware that because that was voted down, not only are you and I going to be prohibited from wireless communications, limo drivers are going to be prohibited, taxi drivers, city bus drivers, school bus drivers, truck drivers, Uber and Lyft drivers, all kinds of drivers. In fact, nearly every type of driver will be prohibited from operating a wireless device except light rail transit operators. They will be permitted because we voted down that amendment. So, members, I think that's just another example where we should and did have the opportunity to adopt language to improve that bill, and it was my hope that we would have improved this language to not include some of the unintended consequences in this bill. So, Madam Speaker, unfortunately, for these and several additional reasons, I will not be able to support this conference committee report. Thank you.
Further discussion on the Conference Committee report to adopt. House File Number 50, Representative Koznick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Hornstein, I appreciate the work that you've done on this in the Conference Committee, and some of the provisions that I objected to previously were removed, so thank you for that. I had a question traveling over the weekend with Uber and Lyft drivers. Can you tell the members how they're going to be affected by this bill, utilizing their business operation models and their GPS systems and their ability to pick up new rides, not just the GPS. I understand that's exempt on here, but how they may be affected, and if you had some conversations with some of those interests. If you would yield, please.
Representative Koznick asks the author to yield. Representative Hornstein.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Koznick, I have not heard anything from the industry, the Lyft or Uber industry about this. As long as they're using their cell phones or devices in a hands-free mode, they will not be affected by this. The GPS is allowed, but it's in a one-touch mode. That's what commercial vehicles have been using since 2012 under federal statute and federal rule. So that won't change at all under this bill.
Representative Koznick.
Thank you, Representative Hornstein and Madam Speaker. I'm not so sure. I think this might be something that we need to revisit. Talking with my Uber driver, as they're driving and driving one person to their destination, they get messages to pick up other drivers that may not necessarily be within their GPS system. It's their separate pooling system. And so I think that's something that we may need to revisit. They haven't reached out to us. That's kind of on them a little bit to do that. But, this is kind of an interesting issue. I have some concerns with encroachment on personal freedoms, and I objected to some of those previously. But I think the time has come that this issue, we make a step forward, and I appreciate the efforts of so many that have done this. And while this bill isn't perfect, I don't want to get in the way of a good start. And so I will be voting for your bill here today.
The member from Pope, Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. It was a couple of weeks ago we heard this bill the first time on the floor. And when I went home that weekend, I got down to the parking lot and I was thinking about the bill. And I took my phone and I put it in the center console of my car and said to myself, I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to call on the way home. And it was 3 hours of temptation on the way home. But just the act of putting it away and saying to myself, I'm not going to use my phone. And, we're here today and coming up with a lot of valid technicalities that may prove problematic in the enforcement of a bill such as this. But I think the message that we need to send to the people of Minnesota is just don't do it. When you're driving, just don't do it. Put it away. And, if anything that we would do, distracted driving and such, would lead to serious injury or accidents, I know we'd feel really, really bad. But so my thought to myself, at least, was when I'm driving, put it away and just don't use it. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Is there anyone else who wanted to speak on the Conference Committee report? The representative from Crow Wing.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If the bill author would yield.
Representative Hornstein will yield.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So
Representative Heinz.
I had a question come from my sheriff in Crow Wing, and what he's concerned about is that often while in his personal vehicle, he'll be responding or being asked a question relative to emergency in the area. And just a clarification, Representative Hornstein, would my sheriff, according to this language, I think we're looking at 3.19, would my sheriff be guilty of breaking this law if in his personal vehicle he had to respond to some kind of an emergency, some kind of situation that might be occurring in the county?
Representative Hornstein.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Heinzman. Yes, under 3.19 to 3.22, all of those scenarios, obtaining emergency assistance, the reasonable belief that a person's life or safety is in danger, authorized emergency vehicle can use would be exempted from this. So I think in the scenario you laid out, I think your law enforcement would be covered.
Representative Heinzman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So just to be completely clear, Representative, if he would continue to yield, if he's in his personal vehicle and had to respond to some of these scenarios that we're describing, are we good? Is that a legal use of a cell phone?
The author will yield. Representative Hornstein.
Again, I think under 3.19 and 3.20, that individual would be covered.
Representative McDonald.
Madam Chair, just a quick question for the bill's author, if he will yield.
He will yield. Representative McDonald.
Representative Hornstein, just a thought, in the other 18 states that have passed this, and perhaps you said it in the debate earlier, I didn't hear, have they seen a decrease of traffic accidents because of the hands-free bill? And the reason I ask that is because this could be a potential that people will conceal their phone down to their seats and take their eyes off the road. And that's unreasonable to do, of course, but you can't legislate every action a person does. So has the state seen a decrease in the traffic accidents that are distracted driving when this passed for hands-free?
Representative Hornstein.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Representative McDonald, yes. In fact, after states have passed hands-free, fatalities and injuries have gone down dramatically. For example, we mentioned California down 22.1%, Hawaii 26.6%, a 10% decrease in Maryland, 26.5% decrease in New Jersey, 22.1% in New York, 19.6% Vermont, 23.3% in West Virginia. So not only are we seeing a decrease in fatalities, but we're seeing a dramatic decrease. So we are very, very pleased with those numbers, and we hope that that will happen in Minnesota as well.
Is there anyone else who has not yet spoken who would like to speak on the adoption of the Conference Committee Report, House File Number 50? Calling on Representative Munson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If the author of the bill would yield for a question, please.
He will yield. Representative Munson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Hornstein, there seems to be a lot of confusion. I'm glad everyone has attended the first hearing in the Public Safety Committee today, because I feel like that's what we're at. We have so many questions about what this bill is doing. I'm just shocked that it's passed the floor. It's went to the Senate. They've somehow made this smarter and brought it back to us, and we still have a plethora of questions. And there seems to be a lot of confusion around what's legal, what's not. I hear a lot about you saying that this is in your opinion. I hope this doesn't do this. And again, police are going to be enforcing this law. So if I have a cell phone that's turned on, can it sit on the passenger seat while I'm driving? And is that legal?
Representative Hornstein.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Munson. If you're not holding the cell phone, that's totally fine.
Representative Munson.
Okay, and again, thank you for answering. It doesn't say that in the bill, and it says that it must be permanently physically integrated. And it's frustrating because we have chargers that just built into the armrest in my wife's truck that charge her phone wirelessly. So I'm glad that's going to still be legal, but it's confusing because we're asking police officers to enforce this bill in the courts to enforce this based on the language in the bill, and there seems to be a lot of confusion. Madam Speaker, if Representative Dean would yield to a question, please.
Representative Dean will yield. Representative Munson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Dean, we had some discussion earlier when this bill was first heard on the floor about its enforcement and about how this bill can possibly be somewhat discriminatory towards people who may not have physically integrated systems in their car. And I'm wondering, because of the district that you represent, will you be telling your constituents that if they're pulled over by the police because they're wearing a smartwatch or they are suspected of using this phone improperly, will you be telling your constituents that they don't have to give the police the phone when they ask? Because Representative Hornstein said that they don't have to hand the phone over to the police.
Representative Dean.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and Representative Munson. I mean, if that's what's in the bill, that's what I would assume is required. You know, we've talked a lot about technology in our conversation. We talked about technology in newer cars, how they have this Bluetooth built right in. Well, I don't have a newer car. My car is really old, and this would be my hands-free. They're called headphones. You plug it into your phone, and there's this new technology called Siri, and I can just ask Siri to place the phone call, and Siri will make that phone call for me. So, you know, the residents or the people in my district, should they get pulled over, they would be in the same situation as all other parts of the state relative to what's required of them when an officer pulls them over. Hopefully an officer is pulling them over for just cause and not just pulling them over. You know, there are lots of concern. I know there was lots of concern when we implemented the seatbelt law regarding that and officers' conduct. So, you know, I think our officers are very smart. They're very well trained, and they will do what's asked of them relative to the law. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Munson.
Representative Munson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And would Representative Hewitt yield to a question, please?
Representative Hewitt will yield. Representative Munson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Hewitt, you also brought up the seatbelt law that was passed through this body many years ago. You know, even though flight attendants seem to be really insistent on explaining to me the intricate workings of a belt buckle every time I get onto the plane, really not much has changed in seatbelt technology during my lifetime. I'm wondering, Representative Hewitt, could you, do you know when the original legislation that Representative Hornstein worked on against texting, do you know what year that was passed into law?
Representative Hewitt.
No.
Representative Munson.
Thank you, Representative Hewitt, for that short answer. It was passed in 2006. And Representative Hewitt, if you would continue to yield for a question.
He will continue to yield. Representative Munson.
I don't know if you're an Android guy or an iPhone guy, but do you know when the iPhone was released, when it was invented?
Representative Hewitt.
No.
Representative Munson.
It's going to be a great campaign video right there. Speaking on the House floor, I don't know if that was your first time, but the iPhone actually was invented the year after the anti-texting legislation. It was in 2007, I think it was June 29th, it came out. So we pass legislation sometimes in advance of technology, and then when technology comes out, we have to look back at the legislation that we passed and see, well, does this apply to it or not? And that's what they consider in the court of law. When you say, well, it looks like smartwatches are already covered under this law because it says you can't do wireless, communication device. They also take into consideration that the date the law was enacted. Well, if it was enacted in 2006, and we went back and touched on it now, but really didn't want to touch that section, the iWatch was invented in 2014. And so it's pretty easy to think that the original legislation, the intent of that, doesn't apply to smartwatches. But we have some representative here, the author of this bill, who should know it in and out, says it does apply to watches. We have a member of the conference committee that says it doesn't. We have a member of the conference committee that says his kindergartners say it doesn't apply. There's a lot of confusion here, and we have people that will be pulled over in districts. I know that you were concerned about racial profiling when you originally passed this bill off the House floor, which is why it had that I think it was $250,000 to study racial profiling. And honestly, it has me concerned because we have now the decision on the floor that the watches, the smart watches, apply to this. And it's not just looking at the text messages that appear on my watch, but it's actually just wearing it makes it illegal. So if you want to pull somebody over in North Minneapolis, you just look for a smartwatch, pull them over. And as Representative Hornstein confirmed, this is a primary offense. You can pull someone over for having a smartwatch. They are breaking the law. You can pull them over. And police officers think they can take your phone. Representative Hornstein says they can't take your phone, and it's nowhere in this bill is it clarified. Now we can talk about how to unlock the phone. Thanks to Apple, they have this facial recognition software, so as you're handcuffed in the back of the squad car, the police officer can lean in and unlock your phone for you, and then go through your phone. But I've got concerns around this bill. I'm going to be voting no twice today if I was allowed. But I think that's all the questions I have. Thank you, Representative Hornstein and members, for entertaining my objection to this bill.
Representative Johnson.
Madam Chair and members, I just got to remind Representative Dean. He brought up the earbuds. I want to let the public know as well, if you are using earbuds when you're using your phone, only use one, because it's illegal to have both of them in. And it's a primary offense to get pulled over if you have earbuds in both ears, or headphones. Also, he brought up Siri. Siri works great down here. In fact, I just saw that we're starting to get 5G down here. If you don't have LTE, but only have 3G or less, Siri doesn't work, which is most of greater Minnesota. So this hands-free is great. It'll work in the metro area. But in the vast part of Minnesota, it doesn't work.
The member from Blue Earth, Representative Considine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's only a plethora of questions if you forget about the fact that people are being killed and maimed on our highways, and that this bill works. It's worked every single place, and it has reduced the number of people that are being killed and maimed. Thank you.
Are there any other members who would like to speak on the adoption of the Conference Committee Report, House File Number 50? Representative Drazkowski.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I've been listening intently to the debate and read the bill multiple times, and I still don't see, Chair Hornstein, where it says holding the phone in the bill is a violation. It doesn't. Correct me, any member, if I'm wrong. Again, I've read it and read it. It doesn't say holding the phone if the phone is off or not being used is a violation. I'm not seeing it in the bill. So members, as I read the bill, page 1 talks about what a wireless communication device is and what a wireless communication device is not. Okay? And we've talked about elements of that. The next page goes into what an electronic message means and what voice activated or hands-free means, and gives those definitions very clearly. Well, I don't know about clearly, but that's what they focus on. And then the key part of the bill, members, is on lines 2.27 on through much of page 3. And the prohibition is for using a wireless communications device to initiate, compose, send, retrieve, or read, engage in a cellular phone call, including some other things, and access the following types of content, video content, etc. So, members, you have to actually use the phone for those specific things in order to be in violation of the bill. So I heard it discussed earlier, and maybe I heard that wrong, but I thought I heard Chair Hornstein say it's a violation for holding the phone. Members, the way I read the bill, it's not. The bill says if you got the phone, the bill does not say if you have the phone in your hand and you're not using it for one of those things, you're not in violation. So we have a difference of opinion on this. Would the author yield, Madam Speaker?
The author will yield. Representative Drazkowski.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Hornstein, help us out here. Did I shine some light on this, or am I missing something?
The author of the bill, Representative Hornstein.
Madam Speaker and Representative Drazkowski, we thoroughly vetted this bill with law enforcement and other safety experts, and they are very clear that this is pertaining to hands-free. 2.17 to 2.20 mentions that in the bill, and so I think this is very clear, and I think the language has its intended uses for law enforcement to enforce this law.
Representative Drazkowski.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Chair Hornstein. Well, Representative Hornstein, again, it doesn't say holding in the bill is a violation. Nowhere. But it says you have to be using the wireless device to do those 3 different categories of things outlined in the bill on the bottoms of page 2 and the top of page 3. So if I am going down the road and get pulled over simply because I have the cell phone in my hand, the police are going to say, and Representative Stevenson pointed out, you get into court of law, it's going to be he said, she said. Now, if it's me and the police officer, who is the court going to believe? Yes, that is rhetorical, members. They're not going to believe me. And simply for holding the phone when the law says, if this does become law, that you actually have to be using it for those 3 intended purposes in the bill, I'm going to be hung out to dry by our legal system for something I didn't do. The bill is not ready for prime time, members. Representative Munson and others have pointed out the difficulty with this bill and difficulty with interpreting it and understanding it and the difficulty with implementation and the things that people can get in. I've just pointed out one thing here. This bill is not ready. It's going to cause heartache and problems for the people of Minnesota. It's just not ready. I encourage you to vote no. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The member from Martin, Representative Gunther.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I just looked at this introduction of bill sheet, and we're at 2828 this year. These are not all new laws. These are recodifications of existing laws that are making them hopefully better, or they won't pass the committees. Chairman Hornstein, this is a great first step. Thank you. We are not done yet. We will revisit this bill in the future as technology and everything else dictates. So all these people are saying, I'm not going to vote for this bill yet. I'm saying I am, because this bill is going to save thousands of lives. So members, think about that. 2828 is a pretty important statistic, and we will revisit this often. Thank you.
Members, is there any person who has not yet spoken who would like to speak on the adoption of Conference Committee Report, House File number 50? Representative Mason.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, this concept of distracted driving has been with us since at least 2010. We have gone over this issue again and again, and it seems like whatever issue somebody comes to me with, when they're finished with that main issue, they always bring up their concern about distracted driving. I mean, it's commonplace. I use 35E to see somebody with a cell phone to their ears. And everyone is seeing this. They expect us to take action already. It's a matter of public safety. We need to pay attention to our constituents. We need to get this bill in law. Thank you.
Is there any other member who has not yet spoken on the adoption of House File, the Conference Committee report on House File number 50? Representative Petersburg.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I would just wanted to point out some of the concerns that I've heard here. If you look on 2.29, it says the vehicle upon a street or highway is prohibited from using wireless communication device to do the 1, 2, 3, and 4 that was currently talked about having to be done. Now, those are actually prohibitions. And if you look at 3.14 and 3.17, you will clearly see that it says the person does not hold the device with one or both hands. I think both of those are fairly clear as to the intent of this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
There being no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion to adopt the Conference Committee report on House File number 50, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. The motion prevails. The clerk will give the bill its third reading as amended by conference.
Third reading, House File number 50, as amended by conference.
Third reading, as amended by conference. Any further discussion? The author of the bill, Representative Hornstein.
Oh, thank you again, Madam Speaker and members. Thank you for this good debate we had today. I didn't have a chance to acknowledge Representative Uglem, and I wanted to say thank you because we are here today because of the work that he did over the last couple of years to move this bill forward. Representative Torkelson as well played such a key role in this, our conferees. And I just wanted to clarify just a couple of things before we vote. Number one, you can wear a smartwatch. The issue is what you do with that smartwatch. Don't watch games. Don't use it for video streaming. That's the issue here, and one of the members said that some of these traffic safety or distracted driving laws are absurd. Well, members, what's absurd is what people do behind the wheel. What's absurd is that they're watching movies, they're texting, they've got their phone to their ears, they're not keeping their eyes on the road. That's what's absurd. And then Representative Drazkowski, you talked about heartaches and problems for the people of Minnesota. The heartache that we felt when we were hearing this bill over and over were the heartache of the people that had lost friends and family and relatives to distracted driving accidents. They were the ones that moved this bill forward. They were the ones that changed hearts and minds on this legislation. Members, we know this bill will save lives. We know it has had dramatic impact in other states where it was passed. We will become the 17th state, plus the District of Columbia, to pass this bill into law, and we will have safer roads because of it. I ask you to vote green.
Any further discussion? There being no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll.
I'll get it.
The clerk will close the roll.
There being 107 ayes and 19 nays, the bill is repassed as amended by conference and its title agreed to. Motions and resolutions. There are copies of the non-controversial motions at the House desk and online. If there is no objection, we will take action on these motions first. Hearing no objection, the motions prevail. Announcements. Representative Carlson.
Madam Speaker, members, the DFL members of Ways and Means will meet in 400 North at noon, and then Ways and Means will be convening at 2 o'clock, or in room 200 at 12:30. Look forward to seeing everybody.
Announcements. Representative Lesh.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Judiciary Committee will meet in 10 minutes in room 10.
Representative Nelson, M.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And the State Government Finance Committee will reconvene at 3 p.m.
Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It is spring, and the Minnesota Street Rod Association is out on the front lawn with classic cars, and would invite you to go out and take a look on a beautiful, bright spring day.
Representative Listlegard.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I don't know if anybody heard, but there's a Ranger Party tonight, and we'd encourage everybody to come and enjoy yourself. Thank you.
Representative Albright.
Thank you, members. State Government Finance Republican Caucus will meet at 1 o'clock in room 208E. Thank you.
Announcements. Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, the Rules Committee will meet at 11:30 a.m. in room 400 South, so 30 minutes in room 400 South. And Madam Speaker, I move that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 9 a.m. Wednesday, April 10th, 2019.
Representative Winkler moves that when the House adjourns today, it adjourn until 9 a.m. Wednesday, April 10th, 2019. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The motion prevails. Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, I move that the House do now adjourn.
Representative Winkler moves that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The House stands adjourned until 9 a.m. Wednesday, April 10th, 2019.